All right, let's look at, how do we record and report the entire job order costing process. So from beginning to end, we're going to look at those 8 steps and prepare the journal entries related to this question. So Cleveland Corp implements a job order costing system to track costs of each of their projects. The following pertain to materials requisition and labor use for fiscal year 2018. So you can see job one, requisition $12,000 in material, $23,000 in labor. Job two, they requisition $14,450 of material, $26,525 in labor. Job three, $9,000 in material, $19,750 in labor. Cleveland Corp's processes are predominantly carried out by their employees, so they use direct labor hours to apply overhead to each job. So that's a key thing you got to pick up there when you're going to calculate your predetermined overhead rate. They estimate that overhead for the fiscal year 2018 will be $100,000, and they expect to use a total of 75,000 direct labor hours. Job one used 20,000 hours, job two used 25,000 hours, and job three is going to use 30,000 hours. Here, we're going to prepare the journal entries to assign materials, labor, and overhead to each job. And the first thing we have to do before any of that is we have to calculate that predetermined overhead rate. Excuse me. So how do we calculate that predetermined overhead rate? Remember our formula: expected annual overhead divided by expected annual driver, which is the predetermined overhead rate. How we calculated the expected annual overhead is $100,000. Excuse me. The expected annual driver, they're using direct labor hours as the basis. They estimate they're going to use 75,000 direct labor hours. We get a predetermined overhead rate of $1.33 per direct labor hour. Again, that's rounded to the nearest cent. What does that number represent? Remember, it represents every direct labor hour a job incurs. We are estimating that that job is incurring $1.33 in manufacturing overhead. So we're going to apply overhead to that job on that basis. Direct labor hours used for each job. This was from the question stem, but just to review it very quickly, job one used 20,000 hours, job two used 25,000 hours, and job three used 30,000 hours. Remember, when we are applying or allocating overhead to each job, how do we do that? We take the hours used, in this case, the direct labor hours used for each job, the 20,000, the 25, and the 30,000 respectively, and we're going to multiply by the same predetermined overhead rate that we calculated up top here, the $1.33. So for job one, we're going to allocate based off of this $1.33 per direct labor hour multiplied by the 20,000 direct labor hours incurred. So we're going to allocate to job one $26,666.67 in manufacturing overhead. Remember, this is still an estimate because that predetermined overhead rate is based off of estimated amounts: expected annual overhead, expected annual driver. We're going to estimate that job two incurred $33,333.33 worth of manufacturing overhead. And how did we calculate that? It's the $1.33 per direct labor hour times the amount of direct labor hours job two used, which was 25,000 direct labor hours. Job three, we're going to allocate to it 40,000 in manufacturing overhead. And simply, how do we get that? The $1.33 per direct labor hour multiplied by the 30,000 direct labor hours job three utilized. Whoops. Now it wants us to prepare the journal entries to allocate or to record the requisition of materials incurred, the wages incurred, and to record the applied manufacturing overhead. So in the question stem, it said that job one requisition 12,000 in material, job two requisition 14,450 in material, job three 9,000 in material. To show that amount of material requisitioned into production, all of that is going to show up in our work in process inventory account. So we're going to debit work in process inventory. We're going to decrease or credit raw materials inventory because we're essentially, what we're doing is we are introducing the raw materials to the production process. So they're going to transfer from raw materials inventory to work in process inventory. And our journal entry is going to be for $35,450. And how did we get that? We simply added up the materials requisitions for jobs 1, 2, and 3. Wages incurred, similar process. Job 1 utilized 23,000 in labor. Job 2, 26,525. Job 3, 19,750. That is going to be transferred to work in process inventory because now we have started production. And that's where we tracked our direct material, the direct labor, and applied manufacturing overhead. So I'm going to debit work in process inventory for $69,275. And how did I calculate the $69,275? It's simply adding up the $23,000 in labor of job 1, the $26,525 of job 2, the $19,750 of job 3. And notice the credit there is the labor control account. Remember, we track all the labor incurred in that labor control account. Once we start assigning it to production or to specific jobs, that's when we transfer it from the control account to the work in process inventory account, as we're doing here. That's why we're crediting the labor control account. The final journal entry here is to record the applied manufacturing overhead. So that's the estimate. So that's everything we just did up here. Job 1, we're allocating 26,600 plus. Job 2, 33,333. Job 3, 40,000. Now we calculated that again. We took the direct labor hours for each job and multiplied by the predetermined overhead rate. If you add all of that up, we are applying manufacturing overhead, or we're estimating we incurred 100,000 in manufacturing overhead. So I'm going to debit my work in process inventory account for 100,000, credit my manufacturing overhead control account for the same. Just a quick talk on what work in process inventory account is. Remember, work in process inventory represents the production, the costs being incurred on units or jobs being worked on currently. These are ones that we are working on, we have not yet completed. In this case, work in process inventory has in it, it has actual direct material used, actual direct labor, and applied manufacturing overhead. I could have asked you, after these transactions, what is the balance in the work in process inventory account? And what you would do is you would take the amount of material that we requisitioned or tracked to work in process, the amount of labor, and the amount of overhead that was applied. And if you added those all up, you would see we'd have a balance in work in process inventory of $204,725. What that means is everything that we are working on right now, we have spent in production costs $204,725. That means the cost of job 1, job 2, and job 3 up until this point in time has cost us $204,725. And also what this means is that since this is all in work in process inventory still, that means we're still working on these jobs. Once we've completed 1, 2, or all 3 of the jobs, we will remove the costs from work in process, and then they become finished goods inventory, but we haven't gotten to that step just yet.